So I'm not filming on the GoPro because I left the GoPro upstairs. In a bit of a situation. So I've replaced all of the handbrake lines and everything on the caliper. I've replaced the pads, I've replaced the sliding pins, pretty much everything's been replaced. The spring, however, we've still got no handbrake. After bleeding procedures, handbrake's been tightened. We're in a bit of a jiffy, or a bit of a tough situation. So after trying to bleed with a very, very broken bleed nipple, I'm going to have to start taking the caliper off to then fully replace with a brand new one which I had lying around, well, a set of brand new ones. So we'll start with this side, get it running, so I'll show you how to do that. So first I'm just going to try and remove this bracket bolt, see if it comes off, and then after that I'm going to take apart all the pieces I took off the other day, and then 2 bolts that hold the actual full caliper on itself. Then I'll be able to release the bleed lines on here as well. It's going to lose all the fluid. I'm pretty much going to have to start from scratch at bleeding the whole system again afterwards. Let's see how much I remember to record on the phone. So now I've just got the bolt off the end, as you can see, just where I'm pointing with this finger, not the green thumb that I sliced open here. I'm then going to have to hammer this off after disconnecting the new handbrake cable I put on the other day. And as I go along, I'm going to put the hardware into the new holes, make sure it goes on. I will be replacing this hardware, just as of right now I don't have any to hand, and unfortunately I'm in a bit of a time crunch. So next order of business is to get the handbrake cable assembly off like last time, detach the spring from underneath at the bottom, then start working away at the rest of the bolts that hold on the brake line systems. Fingers crossed I'll be able to sort it. I might be able to possibly clamp or at least hold up the surfaces so we don't lose too much brake fluid, but no guarantee. I'll show you as I go. As you would have seen in one of the other videos, I've just removed a cotter pin and the sliding pin here. So again, I'm just going to pop that back where it should go. And I've also just loosened this entire bracket off, which I am just going to leave sort of hanging at the back here, because I've already replaced the rest of the system. Oh, sorry about the angle. This cable here. Since I've already replaced the rest of the system all the way across, I don't need to let this cable loose. All I'm going to start to do is disconnect the actual caliper off, and then I'm going to look to take off the actual brake line itself, which has already been taken off and repaired in the past. So hopefully we won't have any issues with taking it off and they haven't used Loctite on it. Right, so now to get this side off, I've undone this bolt here on the caliper, which now pulls out, which I'm going to put directly back in our new one, just sat there for now. Then we're able to spin the caliper out of these 2 holding points here, which are previously greased up, and then if I pull it lightly towards me, there we go, unit comes off. Now what I'd suggest while we're here is to take the old grease off and just replace it with some new stuff. I've just got some high temperature here, so I'm going to go about and do that. But I'm also just going to match the parts up to see if it fits before committing to putting any of this back together, and before detaching our brake line here and our spring that we put back on to this caliper. So let me show you how I do that in a second. Let's line the part up. Let's get it wiggled in without disturbing the boot too much, and pressed in. So that seems to be going in quite nicely with a lot of push, which is really good. It's what we want to see. The backs of these I've already greased up. I'm going to take this pin out, I'm going to push down and just get it lined up, and then the bolt is going to go all the way through, and then hopefully I'll be able to line up any minute now. And yeah, so we are slowly getting a screw in there. I'm then going to pop anything that's fallen off. So in my case here, I've had a squeaker shim come off the back. Ooh, it's a bit of a fiddly process. So squeaker shim back on there, and then the pad that I put on in my previous video as well, I'm going to just get slotted in as well, just to confirm that we've got all the correct parts and pieces and everything sits nicely together. on our new caliper. So that's in there, and that's all in. I'm then tighten everything down on here before putting the spring back on, and again before disconnecting this line, because if anything goes wrong in this part of the process, I don't want to be taking this off and completely writing the car off to not drive for a few weeks. I'm going to get onto that off camera. This pin's in, the pads are on, this section here has just gone on, and then the feed into there, and then the only last thing I'm going to leave till the end is the spring, because it's easier to get on once it's on the car. So that's all on there. Now it's the tricky bit of getting it past all this dust.
Chris has just put the caliper back together and put it back on the car, and now he just needs to loosen off the handbrake, which he's doing now, and you can see. All you need to do now is bleed the brakes.
Now it's really dark, but essentially we're using this bleed nipple I'm pointing to here, and essentially Lex in the car over there is pumping the pedal a bunch, making it nice and hard. Then what I'm doing is I'm opening this by turning it downwards to then let all the excess liquid out, which you can see is over there, and all the air bubbles out. Then I'm shutting it again and then getting Lex to pump the brake again. So essentially pump, 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 foot down, hold the foot down, open this little nib here, let all the liquid come out, rinse and repeat. And then also checking the levels in the front of the car. I'll show you where that is, just to make sure that the fluids aren't getting too low. This is the fluid reservoir here, and then I've just got my liquids to top up there as well. So as you can see, it's nice and stiff. So it was the caliper arm at the back that was seized. We may have lost a socket that will now stay on there until it probably gets ground off. Forever part of the car. Part of the crew, part of the ship. But for now, the new caliper is on. It took way longer than expected, and we didn't even think we'd need to do a caliper job, so thank God I had one lying around. But essentially, I'll show you on this one that's still leaking fluid. This arm was the culprit that was causing an issue. So essentially this arm is stuck. I tried greasing it up and everything, didn't work. And also this arm here should not be bent. If you can see, it's off to an angle. It should be pointing in a straight line up from the metal edge, which it's not. Which was also then causing issues with the retraction. So as this pin bent back, the arm then didn't move as much as it needed to, the grease didn't get around, and then over time with brake dust and heat, it's just like, that is solid, isn't it? Like, I can't move that with my hand, and the only way I was able to move it was with a hammer. But yeah, so that is how to change, well, you now know how to change a handbrake, how to bleed a brake system, how to change the brake pads, and now also an entire caliper. So if you find a rusty MR2 anywhere, just watch these videos. They'll get you out of the crap.
And it's only taken us 4 hours.
4 hours.
It is 10 PM.
But you've got to expect it from these rusty cars. So, safety as usual. I'm going to just give this a very sparing spray of brake cleaner. I'm going to get the wheel back on.
Which is nicely painted.
Which is lovely painted, thanks to Lex over there, behind the camera. And then essentially, I'm going to test the car. I'm not going to test it this morning. I'm not going to test it tonight. I'm going to test it first thing in the morning when it's a bit lighter. I might give it a quick test, but nothing special. Well, I actually went back to the job to finish a couple of things off. So from last time, this bolt was crusty, like really badly rounded. So I wanted to replace this and also replace the crush washers inside because they were basically non-existent. However, I was in a stuck situation, so I needed to temporarily fix it. What you should do when replacing a caliper is what I've now done, which is put a new banjo bolt and 2 copper washers you can just see there. This essentially creates like a better seal between the caliper and the bolt itself, so you don't have any leaks. And then I'm going to test it out later just to make sure it's tight enough and everything, and then re-bleed the system for like the 6th time just to make sure everything is back together, on properly, and holding pressure for when I drive it in the future. Other things I didn't show is I need to make sure that this line if you do take it off, is nice and out the way, so it's not going to attach on any tyres, it's not going to get caught, it's not going to damage anything else. Also, when routing the line, not to route it too close or far over so it doesn't jam sort of in between the car too much. There will be some tightness and angle that you have to keep, however you don't want it on top of this bolt here. And then also just to keep in mind one more time, always using brake cleaners and things like that, just to go over the work once it's finished and make sure everything's okay. One more thing I'm doing is I'm leaving this package just underneath to catch any possible drips. These are just hand marks to make sure that the car isn't leaking at all when I'm bleeding the system, and then also when I put the brakes up, or the handbrake up in general. But yeah, just wanted to add that into the video. Anyway, hope that helps. And yeah, what fun job next?